All right, welcome, people. This is our first episode that we're gonna talk about baseball. This is in the game, and we're gonna talk about this weird how the baseball started in the Major League Baseball after COVID. It's been already like 3 weeks and a half that the league started, and there's some interesting things that are like improving from last year and showing some also surprises so far that we have. And so for sure we're gonna have a lot of things to talk about of each of the East and American League and National League conferences. And today we have a special guest. uh, our guest today is David. David, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing great. Like I'm very excited to talk about baseball tonight and hear what you think about all these teams that are doing so far in the league.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me on. Always love talking baseball. As you could see, I'm a big Mets fan, love wearing my orange and blue. And the big question we have for this season is how good are these teams? Because of coronavirus and the new league structure, it's very hard to measure these teams against each other. The way the league decided to operate was that they were going to do it by region. So East teams would only play the East, West, West, Central, Central, etc. So that's the big challenge. If I want to say how good is a team from the AL Central versus AL West, it's hard because they'll never play each other during the year. When in a normal year they'll play 6 or 7 times. So it's really a difficult situation. Nevertheless, this is what we have. So let's do our best to discuss it. In addition, we have a bizarre situation where they decide in order to maximize revenue for the postseason, 8 out of the 15 teams from each league are making the playoffs. So it means even if you're not such a great team, you still have the potential to make the playoffs. So even if you don't have a good record right now, you could still get to the playoffs and potentially once you're there, go far. So it's really an interesting situation. A lot of people just say it's sort of like an experimental season, but here we go.
Yeah,
So for the
so
first team to discuss,
it's gonna be an
yes.
interesting league because of all the changes that you just mentioned. And I think we should just jump into what's going on at the moment. So if you want start to talk about for the AL East.
Sure. So with the AL East, I'm not going to discuss every team in baseball because 30 teams is going to take too long, but at least the teams that are interesting. So number one, we have the Yankees. Okay, the Yankees, 16-6. I think they have the best winning percentage right now in baseball. They have the best offense in baseball right now, the highest team batting average in the AL. And what makes them amazing is this is all being done despite injuries to DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton. Just to put things into perspective, before these guys got injured, all of them had an OPS plus that was 173 or higher. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's a Saber metric. The idea is ERA plus or OPS plus basically wants to determine how much above or below average you are. So 100 is average. Anything above 100 is good. Anything below 100 is bad. I mean, if you're right around, it's not crazy either way. But 173 means you're 73% better than everyone else. And those three guys were at least 73% better than the typical player in their situation. So to lose all three guys and still to be winning is amazing. Their bullpen, even despite the Chapman injury, I believe he was injured because he hasn't pitched much this year. Chad Green, Adam Ottavino, even Luis Avalon, who was on my Mets last year and did, was pretty bad, is having a very good season. Zach Britton, as the closer, has done a great job replacing Chapman. So they're really doing well. I think their weakness so far is in the starting rotation. Garrett Cole has been doing a very good job. He was their big free agent signing. He was a really big deal in the offseason. Tanaka is having another good season. But other than those guys, Paxton, Happ have really just not been pitching that well. Montgomery, so also he's been okay. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been doing all that well either. But I think their issue is long-term rotation depth. So in terms of the postseason, we'll see. They're definitely going to make it to the postseason. I'd be totally shocked if they didn't make it, but they're a good team.
Right. And so you think that they pretty much are going to win this division this year?
Yeah, I have my money on the Yankees winning the division. I think the Rays are a good team. They're very similar to last year. I'm not going to get into them too much in depth. They're a very good team, not as good as the Yankees, good players. But yeah, I don't think the Rays are going to overtake the Yankees. I think the Yankees are just a deeper team. Even that's why they can have those injuries and still be 10 games over 500, something like 22 games into the season. I mean, that's phenomenal. So they're really just a very good team.
And how about those Baltimore?
Okay, so the next team I wanted to discuss are the Baltimore Orioles. Yesterday, I saw a really, really good tweet. Someone posted that the Orioles have faced 7 of the best pitchers in baseball: Garrett Cole, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Zach Wheeler, Jake Arrieta, Strasburg, and Corbin. Patrick Corbin. Those are the 7 excellent, top tier pitchers that they faced. Those guys have a combined payroll, or like if you take all of their current contracts together, it's over $1 billion, like 1.06 billion. And against the Orioles, their ERA is 6.82, meaning the Orioles have been able to hit the best pitchers in the game very hard. And the question is why? So I have a whole theory as to what makes a winning team. And for me, what you have to do on offense is have a lot of really good, young, everyday position players who are fast, who can hit for power, hit for average, play a good game, make good contact. These are the type of guys that you want to have on your team. And the Orioles, after basically tanking for a while, are finally coming to it. So if you look at guys like Hanser Alberto, there's Nunez, there's another guy, Iglesias, who's been hitting really well, Santander, Severino, all of these guys are all really just hitting well. Another guy, Chance Cisco, who's been doing a very good job, but hasn't played in as many games. But this team has a lot of depth on offense. That's why I think that they're going to be really good in the future. Their problem is always they're in a tough division. Every team in this division is really trying. There's no one right now who's in tank mode. So long term, it's going to be tough, but they're a good team. And they're one of those teams where you wonder, because they don't get to play in other divisions, does that mean if they're not playing against those other teams, are they going to sort of be pushed down? So we don't know. Right now, I believe they're like a 500 team. I see a little above 500. They're 12-10. So they're a good team. Main issue I see with them is pitching depth. I'm not sure how great their rotation is in their bullpen, if they're going to last in the long run. But this is a good team, and this is a team to watch out for in the future.
All right, and well, we have to talk about the disappointment that been so far for the Boston Red Sox. Boston.
Yes, and you said it right. What a disappointment. So I had to look up their record because I knew it was bad, but 6-17, I mean, that's disaster territory. Nobody expected the Red Sox to be this bad. Yes, they traded Mookie Betts. Okay, fine. But they got Alex Verdugo, who's actually having a good season. The issue they have is, I think, number one, Rafael Devers, who is a really good young player, has just so far not gotten it together this year. His batting average is under 200. Jackie Bradley, who's been very consistent, he's basically done like nothing offensively. And you just go through the lineup. It's really, I don't know, the guys just are not clicking yet. But also, I think their biggest problem is their pitching. They have the worst ERA in baseball and the worst whip. So if you're putting runners on base, you're giving up lots of runs. It's very hard to win games like that. When you have the worst pitching in baseball, that's it. You're done. So that's their problem. I think they could, somewhat turn around to at least have a better record. But when you're 6-17, it's hard to make the playoffs. I mean, this is in a short season. That's a lot to come back from.
True. So let's move on to the AL Central. And what do you think? What do you have to say about the special teams or strongest team that we have there?
Okay, so do you want me to start with your favorite team, the Indians, or the Twins, who have the best record? I'll leave it up to you.
Let's go with the Indians.
All right. So the Tribe, what are they up to this year? So I'm amazed at how good their pitching is, despite the fact that they're now in the post-Kluber era. If Corey Kluber was sort of the anchor of their staff for all those years, they've traded him and their staff has been totally fine. Shane Bieber continues to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. I mean, if you had to make a list of top 5 to 10 guys in baseball, he's for sure in the top 10, possibly even top 5. He's been that good. Carlos Carrasco is continuing to be a very solid pitcher. I'm just thinking of guys who've been doing well. They have some new guys who I'm blanking on their names right now. Savell or something. I might be mispronouncing his name.
Mike Clevinger.
Well, Zach. Yeah?
Mike Clevinger.
Clevinger is also on. Yeah, he's also been pitching well. So they have a good rotation, and that's important because as much as teams use bullpens today, when it gets to the postseason, the teams with really good rotations have a way of going far. And you can look a lot over the last few years of teams who've gone far in the postseason, made to the World Series. They've all had very good rotations. So that's a good thing for them. In terms of the offense, so I think the biggest disappointment so far has been Francisco Lindor. He's been basically just like a below average hitter. If we go back to the OPS plus, as of right now, it's 87. So he's significantly below average. With that said, Jose Ramirez has been excellent. Reyes, the guy they got from the Padres, has also been really, really good. But if you look through the lineup, there's so many guys who are just not performing. I know Roberto Perez, his injury is bad, but he wasn't doing much before his injury. He I think had 11 at bats with 1 hit. So he didn't do much before. Sandy Leon, the guy they got, he used to be on the Red Sox, has been doing absolutely nothing at the plate. They even have some other backup catcher, Taylor, who I don't think has a hit yet this entire season. I mean, their catching position is a big hole offensively. And when you don't have guys like Oscar Mercado and Carlos Santana who are picking it up, you have a problem. And that's really what's been going on. So they've been good because I think they have a weak division. They've been able to take advantage of the Royals and the Tigers. So and also the NL Central is not great, but I don't know. Their offense has to pick it up if they want to go far.
Okay, so let's continue with the Twins.
So the Twins. Okay, so the Twins are definitely a very good team. They have tremendous power, and I'm blown away by Nelson Cruz. At 39 years old, he in some ways reminds me of Barry Bonds. How Barry Bonds aged, and it didn't matter. He was still just such a dominant force till late in his 30s. Nelson Cruz is similar. I don't know about if he has any steroid implications like Bonds, but he's just such a tremendous hitter. Where I think they've been very good is they have a bunch of really good guys in the bullpen. Tyler Clippard, another former Met who was on the World Series team in 2015, has been pitching very well. Sergio Romo, who I think he was on the mound for the Giants when they won the World Series in 2014, he's been doing really well. Duffy, May, all of these guys, they've been pitching well. Their closer, Taylor Rogers, a little bit less so. But overall, I think they have a very good bullpen, and this is a team to watch out for. The biggest problems they have, I think, are in their rotation. The guys who expected to be good, like Jake Odorizzi and Jose Barrios, so far they haven't been doing it. But overall, I think if they turn it around, they could make a deep playoff run.
All right. And any other team you want to talk about this AL Central? I think you want to talk about the White Sox,
One other
right?
team I have to mention the White Sox. So the White Sox have been building for a while a very good young farm system of everyday players. So guys like Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, Robert Roberts, I'm right now blank. Either way, all of them are great players and they're doing well, and you expect that. But they did make one tactical error. They have too many everyday position players who are into their 30s, and this is a problem for them. So the big free agent signing they had was Yasmani Grandal. Okay, they gave him that 4-year, $73 million contract, and I have to toot my own horn. I was saying when they signed that contract with him, I said that was a bad move. He's a good catcher, but catchers do not age well. Look at guys like Buster Posey. Okay, Buster Posey, he opted out this year, but he's really been struggling. Salvador Perez had a big injury last year. Even Wilson Ramos with the Mets, who was an all-star previously, has been struggling this year. Catchers as they get into their 30s do not age well. And you would say, okay, so move him to DH. Well, the problem is they have Edwin Encarnacion this year, who's 37. They even extended Jose Abreu. They gave him a 3-year, $50 million contract, and he's 33. You have one DH and potentially 3 guys who are competing for that, because these are when guys struggling at the plate, you often want to take him out of the field so he can just focus on his hitting, but they can't do that. So that was a mistake they made. I think they're still going to make it to the playoffs. They're a good team, but the Dallas Keuchel signing was a very good move. They have some good relievers, but I have to toot my own horn. They made a mistake with that signing, and I'm going to stick with it.
All right. And then we have the AL West.
Okay, so 3 teams I wanted to discuss in the AL West. The first one, as everyone can probably guess, the Houston Astros. Everyone has a big question going into the season with the Astros. We all heard about their cheating scandal. Officially, it was only 2017. I don't think there's any fan out there who believes that they just completely stopped in 2018. We know in 2019 it was the whole thing with Jose Altuve, and was he using buzzers or was he not? No one believes that they were playing clean for the last 3 years. So there's a really interesting question. If you look at 2015 and 16, they won 86 and 84 games. In 2015, they were the second wild card. They made it to the playoffs, beat the Yankees, but then got knocked off in the division series. And in 2016, they just didn't make the playoffs because, 84 wins usually won't make it. Then in 2017, 18, and 19, they won 101, 103, and then 107 games. That is tremendous. I don't know how many times this has been done in the history of baseball. I think the Yankees did at some point in 2000s, and that might have been it. If you want to look it up, you can look it up. But winning 100 games in a row, 3 seasons in a row, that's unheard of. And that's what the Astros have been doing. So the question is, going into the season, how much did the cheating scandal really help them? Did it make them that 100-win team? Or had they not cheated, okay, meaning were they legitimately a 100-win team, and without the cheating, let's say they would have been 95 wins? Or were they basically a borderline playoff team, a good but not a great team, and the cheating just so put them over the top? And right now, it looks like the cheating really put them over the top. They're 12 and 10. Jose Altuve has really not been playing well. Same thing with Springer. The only reason their record is even that good, it was lower before, but they just beat up on the Mariners, who are really not a good team. The Mariners have a good minor league system, but their major league team is just not there yet. And the question moving forward is, are they going to go down history as, wow, what major cheaters? Clearly, without the whole banging garbage can scandal, they would not have done well. And by the looks of it, it's not helping their cause. So that's with the Astros. So bad news for them. And then that moves over to the A's. The A's are 16 and 7, and I think they basically have like a hot told you so mentality. There was the fight between their the Astros hitting coach, I think it was, and Laureano of the A's. So the A's are clearly upset at them. They're doing well. They have such a good balanced lineup. Robbie Grossman has been tremendous. The only guy who's not hitting is Chris Davis, but I could see him turning it around. He's a big power hitter. Again, this is a team with a very good bullpen. I think they have the best bullpen ERA in the American League. So I like the A's.
The A's reminds me of the movie Moneyball. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Yes.
The way they're been playing in a way that nobody would expect it.
Right. If you look at their guys, these aren't guys who are big names that everyone's heard of. Think of Matt Chapman, Matt Olson. They're good players, but they don't strike you as the huge superstars that everybody's heard of. If we want to talk about huge superstars that everyone has heard of, then you go to the Angels, which is the last team I want to discuss in this division. The Angels are a team I don't understand them. They have Mike Trout, who is arguably the best player in the history of baseball. He didn't have enough protection in the lineup, so they went out and they got Anthony Rendon. The two of them are hitting well. Both of them have an OPS over 1,000. They're doing great. The starting pitching, I guess beyond Dylan Bundy, has been horrible. So if you take their starting pitching, they're 4-11 this year with a 5.12 ERA. Now, I usually don't care much about records, but what does 4-11 signify? They're basically falling out early, and they're just not able to come back. But the starting pitching is just taking them out of the game, and they're really, really struggling. I don't know why this is, what the deal is with the Angels. They always seem to have a good team on paper and just can't put it together.
All right, so that's it for the American League. Let's move on to the National League, and let's start with the National East, NL East.
Yeah, so I'll start with the East. I'm not going to start with the Mets. I'll actually start with the Braves because right now they're in first place. So going into the season, I was thinking for sure the Braves are the team to beat. Even though the Nationals won the World Series, I think the Braves were a much more fundamentally well-structured team. They have a really good young core of position players, and they have some very good pitching. But what's been happening recently is a lot of those guys have gotten injured. So they started off 7-3, and they were playing very well. But their big guns, Albies and Acuna, who I think are both tremendous players, both of them are right now out with injuries. Soroka is now done for the year. Max Fried is, I think, the only pitcher left in the rotation who is pitching well and like a really significant guy. Because Cole Hamels, who was supposed to be really good, hasn't pitched yet. I'm not sure if he'll pitch yet this year. I know he had an injury early on. So I don't know. I was very confident the Braves would win the division. Now I'm not so sure. I think it's very much opened up, which brings me to the Marlins. The Marlins have the second best record in the National League East, which is a total surprise. Just like Baltimore was a total surprise. So the Marlins are also a surprise. Now the Marlins, they I felt for the past 2 years did not really have major league caliber players on their team. I think Lewis Brinson, for example, was a major bust, but they got some guys who were, I thought really good under the radar pickups. The main one was Jesus Aguilar, who was a nice power hitter who came to them. No one paid attention to the Marlins when they got him, but that was a good move. They already have Brian Anderson, who I think is just a very solid player. Sierra has been awesome this season. And also the pitching. The pitching has really been good so far. I mean, I think of Pablo Lopez, Eliezer Hernandez. These are guys who no one had ever heard before the season, I guess, who weren't Marlins fans. And these guys have been very good. They have one of the strongest farm systems in baseball. So in theory, they should be good over the next couple of years. That's all to be seen. The big question mark is, do you think they're going to go deep this season? Do you think they'll have enough to actually make the playoffs, which is possible with 8 teams, or are they just going to fade away?
So it's a big question that we have because I think it's like a very competitive league that we have on this division, because as you mentioned, like Braves with all the injuries might be falling, and the Mets they're trying to like go up, and I'm pretty sure that you have some comments on how your team are doing so far. And then also
Yes.
we have the Phillies that haven't started well this year, and they still have a pretty good team to compete.
Right. So with the Mets, so I'll jump to the Mets. The Mets are right now 10-14. Interestingly enough, the biggest story on the team is what's not going on the field, but in the front office. The owners are right now in negotiations for selling the team. According to the media, the front runner now is A-Rod and a group that's backing him. There's still a lot of question marks as to how much money he has. There's another guy, Steve Cohen, who has huge money, who apparently the Wilpons don't like. It's a whole mess, Mets, type story. Anyway, I can be very pessimistic as a Mets fan. I love them, but they kill me. Anyway, on the field, they basically have had 2 major problems this year. Number one is the starting rotation has been hit hard, and that's why they haven't been good. Before the season, Noah Syndergaard went down. He has Tommy John. He'll be back hopefully at some point next season. Probably won't even be ready for opening day. Stroman was supposed to be number 2 or number 3 starter. There was a question of who's number 2. Is it Syndergaard? Is it Stroman? Either way, they're both out. Stroman was injured and then opted out of the season. Right now, Michael Wacha was one of their free agent signings in the offseason. He's on the injured list. DeGrom missed his last start with an injury. And even the guys pitching tonight, David Peterson, he had some injury. It seems like he's okay. But when you have 4 starting pitchers who are injured and your team is meant to be a good pitching team with a good starting rotation, it's a problem. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, they cannot hit with men in scoring position. With runners in scoring position, they have a .212 batting average. To make matters worse, they've had more chances than any other team. They've had more at-bats with runners in scoring position than anybody else. So it is so noticeable. And what bothers me is you don't have to be a great team with runners in scoring position. The Cubs, for example, are batting .241 with runners in scoring position, which is not particularly good, and they're in first place. So you don't have to always dominate, get runners in scoring position to hit 300. That's not the case. But when you constantly put runners on and you don't score, it's just so demoralizing. And that's one of the things that's been a big problem for the Mets this year.
I guess we're going to have to see how it goes. And how about the National Central?
Okay, so the Central, I have to admit it. The Cubs were the team I thought was done. I thought, they won the World Series in 2016, and, their time has passed. So far, I've been wrong. They're 14-7. Good job by the Cubs. What makes it amazing is Baez and Bryant, they're 2 killer bees. You would assume that would really be leading this team if they're 14-7, have really just not been doing much offensively. Anthony Rizzo has been carrying the team, as well as Ian Happ, who was, I believe, a first-round draft pick a number of years ago. He's finally having a breakout year. But the big story with them is really the starting rotation. Hendricks is pitching well. Darvish, Lester, John Lester is 36 years old. The guy still has it. He's been pitching well. Their bullpen is kind of weird. They have a high bullpen ERA. A lot of it can be attributed to guys like Kimbrel, who so far have been a huge bust. Kimbrel's not been pitching well, but then they have other relievers who are fine. The reason I think their bullpen ERA is so high is they have like 3 or 4 guys who came up for very briefly, pitching like 1 or 2 games, got shelled, and then like I don't even think are currently on the roster. So I think their bullpen has to get better, but I don't think it's such a crazy thing to see their bullpen improve. And they could be a good team. I wouldn't be shocked if they go deep this year.
All right. And so, how about the Cincinnati, the Reds?
Right. So they're the other team I want to talk about because the problem with the Central in general is because the Cardinals had a lot of guys who had COVID, they only played 10 games so far. So in general, the Centrals played less. It's a little bit harder to judge them when teams haven't played, I think, more than like 20, maybe 21 games. But nevertheless, the Reds are interesting because I thought the Reds were going to be a very good team this year. I thought they were going to make a lot of big splashy moves. They're going to go all in this year, and I thought they'd make the playoffs this year. I thought before Corona hit us, I thought that they were going to get in as like a second wild card team. Now I'm not really so sure. If they make it the playoffs, I think they'll be like a 7 or 8 type seed, one of those like a third place. I don't think they're a particularly good team because they're a good team on paper, but they've been pretty disappointing. So Jesse Winker has so far been playing like an MVP. Nick Castellanos, one of the guys they signed to a multi-year contract, was a very nice move. He's been playing really well. But if you look at some of their other guys, they really haven't been doing well. So Eugenio Suarez, he's one of their big power hitters. He hit 40 some odd home runs last year. He hasn't really gotten it going. They signed this guy out of Japan, Akiyama, hasn't been doing anything. Tucker Barnhart, their catcher, has struggled. Mike Moustakis, the guy they signed formerly of the Royals, I think he was also with the Brewers. He hasn't gotten it going. He's now injured, but he wasn't hitting particularly well. Wade Miley was one of the pitchers they signed to a multi-year deal. He's only had 2 starts and been really bad. So I really don't have a good feel for this team. The thing is, they have good pitching. Sonny Gray, Castillo, Bauer, these are guys who are good pitchers, and they're pitching well. But I don't know. There's something about this team. They haven't quite put it all together yet. If they do, they'll be good, but I haven't seen it so far.
All right, and finally we move to the NL West. So obviously the
All
Dodgers,
right.
we're gonna have to talk about them, right?
Yeah, so the Dodgers are definitely the most interesting team. I mean, interesting in some ways, but also boring in others. They're interesting in that they've just been dominating year in, year out, but it's also boring because it makes the rest of the division boring. No one else really seems to be able to compete with them. Right now, they're 17-7, and they seem to just do everything right. They have a great ownership group, great manager. They lead the major leagues in home runs. They have a great farm system. Usually you see weaker teams with great farm systems because they build up. Dodgers still have one of the top farm systems in the game. I think they have the best bullpen ERA in baseball because why not? They're the Dodgers. Everything falls into place. Remember the Mookie Betts trade? He's been awesome. He's got 9 home runs already on the season. Even when guys like Bellinger and Jock Peterson aren't really hitting so well, no problem. Corey Seager, AJ Pollock, Justin Turner, they're picking up the slack. The Dodgers are such a fundamentally good team. Nothing else to add. It's like they're so interesting because they have so much talent, but they're boring because they don't even make it competitive. Right now, they're just the team to beat.
Do you think there's like any other team on that division that might surprise us in this year?
Okay, so this year, no. In the future, yes. So the last team I want to discuss are the San Diego Padres. The Padres are a team for the last number of years, similar to the White Sox. They've been building up a very, very good minor league system. Tatis Jr., he's a total monster. They made a trade for this guy, Trent Grisham, who came from the Brewers. They got him along with Zach Davies. Both of them have been very, very good. Paddock, the pitcher they had, who was a really good rookie last year, he hasn't been doing great. I mean, he had like one really bad start against the Dodgers, so it's hard to judge. Is he not doing well, or is it just the Dodgers, got the best of him? But he's going to be fine. They're a good team. Again, similar to the White Sox, the mistake they made was they went and they signed big stars for big money who really haven't been doing that well. So Hosmer, in his first 2 years after getting that mega deal, the first 2 years he did nothing. Last year, his OPS plus was like 93, I believe. Really just not that good. He was a below average player making, huge bucks, and they still have him for like another half decade. This year so far he's been playing well, but it's a short season. We'll see what happens. Manny Machado was like good but not great last year. This year he's been struggling. So again, let the young guys play. I think they're going to do well. I think the Padres have a good future ahead of them. But if your question is this year, can anyone overtake the Dodgers? I don't see that happening. For me, the answer is no.
All right. So if you have to put some money and bet who's gonna go to the World Series this year, who would it be from?
Okay. Predictions. Just so you know, as a general rule of mine, I hate making predictions because I have a way of getting them all wrong. Okay, I don't like to say this team is going to do so well because next thing you know, the players are all injured and they're terrible. So I don't like making predictions. But you put me on the spot. You asked me. I'm not going to say no. The easiest thing to do is say Yankees and Dodgers. They're the two best teams, best records. They have the most money. They have so much talent. That's the easy way out. Well, I'm going to go with the Dodgers for the National League. I'm going to try to do something and say, you know what, maybe it's not going to be the Yankees. So there are one of a couple of ways I could see this playing out. If someone can knock off the Yankees, I think the Twins have a good shot. Just historically, the Twins have a way of getting totally beaten up by the Yankees in the postseason. If the Yankees face the Twins are in trouble. If someone could knock off the Yankees, it's interesting. I could see Oakland potentially doing it. I know Oakland has not had a great record against the Yankees last year. Was it 2 years? I think it was 2 years ago. They got knocked off in the wild card game, but Oakland has a good team. So I'm not going to go with the easy route, just say Yankees, Dodgers. I'm going to say Oakland is gonna surprise people. If not, maybe the Rays. I'm also going to throw the Rays out there. I don't know if they're going to make it to the World Series, but somehow their team always seems to be a lot better than people think. And if you look at it this year, people actually think they're good. So if they're going to be a lot better than people think and they're already a good team, then they might actually make a deep postseason run. But I don't know. I'm going to go with the A's for now.
All right. So I think that's it for today, and I want to thank you very much, David, to be in the video for starting to shoot the baseball and very excited on this start after COVID. And I want to also thank all our fans, all people that are watching the video. If you like the video, just click like there. Also subscribe to the channel. And again, David, thank you very much, and I guess I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.